Welcome to episode 300 of the Inside Out Health Podcast. Today, I wanted to do a solo cast on a topic I've been wanting to hit on officially in some sort of evergreen content like this for quite a while. And so I'm going to be talking about toxic health and fitness mindsets that gotta go. It's going to be obviously a very opinionated podcast. I hope you guys enjoy. So let's go ahead and get into it. This episode is brought to you by Peluva. So Peluva, Peluva, those are Mark Sisson's new zero drop minimalist shoe with that distinctive 5-toe design. I have been loving them. I've been a longtime fan of barefoot shoes, and I was very resistant to the little 5-toe articulation personally at first, because just being real, I thought they looked really nerdy, and I was like, oh man, yeah, I love Mark so much, and I get what he's doing, but I'm not wearing those nerdy shoes. And then Brad Kearns, who's also involved with that project, was like, no, Tara, you got to try them. Tara, you got to try them. Tara, just come on, try them. And I tried them, and I kid you not, I enjoy them so much that I actually like how they look now. Weirdly, I can tell. So like the purpose of that 5-toe articulation is so that your toes can move more dynamically. So with other barefoot shoes, like I've been a long time fan of Vivos, and I'm still a big fan of Vivos, but they have just that big toe box, right? Which is awesome. So I didn't really feel like the 5-toe articulation was necessary, to be honest. But as I've worn them, I have experienced how awesome that is. It was actually been quite surprising for me. And I wore them this morning. I wear them all the time, and I'm really, really enjoying that freedom of movement on my toes. So, yeah, Brad and I have been going back and forth. I'm like, dude, I actually love them. And he offered to sponsor the podcast with Peluva and also offer you guys a 15% off code, which I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I will gladly introduce my people to Peluva shoes. So you can use code Coach Tara at peluva.com, or you can just go to peluva, peluva.com/Coach Tara, and you can get that 15% off discount. Make sure you snag some of the socks while you're there, because you're going to need the toe socks. Okay. All right, let's get into the episode. All right, so on this conversation of toxic health and fitness mindsets that gotta go, I'm gonna hit on mindsets from a couple of different areas of the industry. First are gonna be 3 mindsets that I consider extremely unhelpful and really gotta go, that are very popular from the fitness industry. And then I'm going to hit on 3 mindsets from the health optimization meets biohacking community. And yes, I am in all of these communities, right? So coming straight from the inside. And then I'm going to give a couple of mindsets that overall in the health and wellness world that I think are very unhelpful. So let's go ahead and get started. Fitness industry. The first mindset that has got to stop, it is not helpful at all, is the no excuses mindset. And the reason you're hearing this inflection in my voice of just like, ugh, is because I deal with the consequences of this mindset that is so popular in the fitness industry. No excuses. It's even a hashtag. All right. No hashtag, no excuses. You got to get over all your excuses. Okay. Well, that sounds really nice in theory, but let me tell you what I'm seeing on the back end of how that's actually playing out in people's lives. When you're in the mindset of treating yourself so poorly, in my opinion, as to you have actual issues that are coming up that are blocking you from being able to actually stick with what you want to stick with, when we just say, oh, you're just making excuses. Okay, well, let's put it this way. Let's say that your brother or sister is trying to get into a gym habit, and they have legitimate actual issues getting in the way. And instead of like help listening or helping them sort that out and find solutions, you just say, oh, you're just making excuses. It's this extremely dismissive, disrespectful energy that actually doesn't get any real solutions. All it does is make people feel bad about themselves. So let me give you a concrete example. My sister, my sister was talking to me about how she was having a hard time figuring out when she could actually go to the gym. And I was like, okay, tell me more. Okay, well, she's a single mom. She's a teacher, an elementary school teacher, works full time. She's got 3 little kids. At the time, her youngest was like 2. Okay. And her kids are in sports. They have all sorts of different, she's in therapy, they're in therapy. She's got all these actual real commitments going on. And I'm like, okay, like, man, what about like early morning? And she's like, well, my youngest isn't in daycare. I don't really want to leave him there for 10 hours a day. So these were legitimate logistical concerns that she needed to really sit with and think about so that she could find an actual solution to a legitimate problem that she was facing in her life. And if I were to just say, hey, quit making excuses. Everybody, I figured it out. I'm a single mom. You can figure it out too. It doesn't provide a safe space to actually be able to take a look at things and figure out solutions to those problems. I really, really dislike it when I have a client, and this happens to me constantly. I have a client come to me and they're telling me how they're failing in every way, right? They feel like they're just like this huge ultimate failure. And they're like, I know, I'm just making excuses. And I'm like, hey. No, 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 no. You're not just making excuses. Like these are obviously blocks that you're having and issues that are getting in the way. And I have never, never had a client actually break down for me what's going on where it is not completely understandable why they are having a hard time figuring out a solution to that problem. And you know what actually creates lasting change is when we give ourselves, hey, this is tricky, this is tough. Maybe there are some emotional blocks to it, some fears that come up and we want to avoid it. Well, telling ourselves like, in this dismissive, disrespectful energy of, oh, you're just making excuses, is not going to get us to a place where we're actually going to be able to process and resolve those issues because we're not creating a safe place within ourselves to even be able to take a look. Here's another example. I have a client who was very fit, and over the years, she gained a lot of weight. And so her avoidance of going back to the gym was, it's embarrassing for me to go back to that gym and see all these people that I used to see there all the time when I was this fit person. And now I've gained a lot of weight. I'm embarrassed to go back in there. That is a legitimate thing. It does not serve her for me to be like, well, you're just making excuses. Get over yourself. Get in there. A little dose of empathy can go a long way. And that includes how we're treating ourselves. Me saying, yeah, I get that. I understand that. I think anybody would feel that way. Then we started playing around with potential solutions. Is there another gym you might want to go to? She's like, they're like further away and I don't even like them as much and they're more expensive. Like it really is ideal if I can just stop making excuses and get into this gym. And I'm like, okay, well, let's be kind and supportive and like wrap that up in some empathy for a second first, because that is totally understandable why you're feeling that way. What do you think would help you be able to like tiptoe your way into it? And so we got to a point where I was like, you can do whatever you want in there. You don't have to do your assigned workout. You can go in a little corner treadmill and just walk. I just want you to get in there one day this week and just tell me about it. Tell me what you experienced. Right. So those type of processes are much more helpful than just basically berating ourselves and judging ourselves and criticizing and completely abandoning ourselves by saying, oh, I'm just making excuses. It does not provide a safe place for solutions. So I say nix the no excuses mindset and say, maybe instead, I'm having some blocks to this that I haven't been able to figure out a solution for yet. Yeah, that would be more on track to get you to where you want to go so you can actually resolve those issues. All right. Number two, from the fitness industry, mindset that's got to go, in my opinion, is so common. I see it constantly. I see it from coaches, especially. I see it from influencers, and it's sometimes you just got to force yourself to do things you don't want to do. And we see all these posts and it's like, you see me in here today? I didn't feel like being in here today, but I did it anyway because that's the kind of awesome person I am. And that's what it takes, y'all. Okay, now listen. I'm not suggesting that there aren't days that many of us who are consistent at going, we'll use the gym as an example, that are consistent with going to the gym aren't exactly on our A game that day. Okay. But I say, if you are feeling completely exhausted I don't think that's a smart day to train. No, I don't think you should train that day. Training is something that we do when we feel like we have energy to push. I think you're much more likely to get injured if you're training through pure and utter exhaustion. And also, it causes us to, like, let's say, for example, that you came to work with me and you're like, every single day I have to force myself to train, Tara. Like, I can't even see straight. I'm so freaking tired. And I'm like, yeah, keep doing that. If that's the path we went on, then you would not be taking the time that you actually need to focus on why are you so exhausted all the time? What's going on there? Are you staying up way too late for nonsensical, like non-helpful reasons? Like you're just, surfing TikTok or whatever. Okay. All right, cool. So like then the focus instead would be like, let's play around with a new evening routine versus being sleep deprived every day and then just going and trying to resistance train on top of exhaustion constantly. That's not serving our higher health outcomes long term. So, next is maybe you have like some autoimmunity or hypothyroidism or, chronic Lyme or like some sort of legitimate real issue going on. Well, guess what? You know, it would probably serve you a lot more long term is going for walks, getting more sleep, doing proactive recovery, and maybe taking a little break from such hardcore resistance training versus I'm just this baddie that just forces myself to do things even though I'm exhausted. Like, there's also another underlying energy to that mindset of force yourself to do things you don't want to do that I find not conducive to having a healthy relationship with exercise. If we're using that, for example, because that's usually what it is regarding going to the gym and working out, is if you're saying you're forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do, then you're actually having a negative relationship. You're building a negative connotation towards the gym, which I find to be one of the main things that causes people to not stick with it long term. Because it's like, oh, now it's become almost like this torture device. It's like this thing that I have to do because I should, and it's gonna suck, and I just gotta force myself. Like, you're only gonna do that so long before you're like, screw it. I hate this. You know why I've been so consistent in the gym for so long is because I have a very, very positive relationship with that part of my day. I know that if I have lower energy, I can just go in there and walk. I know that if I have really low energy or I'm sick or something, of course I don't need to go in there. That wouldn't even be smart. But for the most part, probably because I don't have a no excuses mindset and I actually address the things in my life that might be causing me to not have enough energy to feel like working out. The gym for me is something that is like a fun, it's fun time. It's playtime. I know that I'm only going to train if I have the energy to train and I feel good. And so it's all positives. I got my music going. I got my pre-workout going, so I'm a little high. I work from home, so I get to get out of the house for a little while. I get to try all new fun, exercises. It's just complete and total playtime for me to the point that I look forward to it. And that is what has kept me consistent. This one goes into another one that is very promoted. I'll kind of tag this one onto it. Very promoted in the fitness industry is it's all hard work and discipline. Okay, it is, but the way this is being positioned, it is hard work in the gym, and it does technically take discipline to do those things. But thinking of it that way is such a downer. It creates such a negative relationship with it. I don't think of it that way. I think of, I can't wait to push myself today. I can't wait to go in there and like unleash my badass side that just can't wait to go into beast mode. Right? So when people say this to me all the time, it is one of the most common comments I have gotten in my life as a woman who has muscle is, wow, that's a lot of hard work and discipline. And every single time I get that, I say back, No, dude. I mean, it was at first, but it's fun. It's so fun. I love it. And I say that intentionally because I want to promote that message, that training and exercise is because that is how I truly feel. But because of this toxic message, I feel a need to voice that to people directly that this is something that it can, and in my opinion, should be very fun, be something we look forward to. I know damn well that the people that I see in there consistently every single morning, they like it. They like it. They like how they feel. They like getting in there. They're there because they want to be, not because they're just so hard work and discipline oriented. Okay. So I just think that one is so over promoted. We need to build a positive relationship with exercise. And this goes for food too. It's not like I remember when I wasn't fit, I always looked at like getting healthy and losing weight as this complete and total bummer. Like this is gonna suck. This is gonna be horrible. Here goes all my good food, and now it's just gonna be misery. That's how I looked at it back then. Now I see things on a 180-degree flip flop from that. It's like my healthy food is delicious and things that I look forward to and can't wait to eat. So, somewhere along the line, this whole like forcing ourselves and hard work and discipline and all that, what it has created, in my opinion, is a really negative outlook towards health. Why does it have to be that way? Why can't it just be fun and delicious and amazing and enjoyable? It can be. I know it can be because that's how I live. So that's why that one bothers me because it's ruining people's relationship with health. Okay, and last, number 3 on the toxic mindset from the fitness industry that really bothers me is this hyper focus on physical appearance. And you know why this really bothers me is because I got kids, I got teenagers. Already kids are developmentally going through a stage in their lives in which they are becoming aware of like where do I fit in the world in this human collective. So teenagers are predisposed to be measuring themselves up, comparing themselves. That is developmental for them. And so now they have social media, and so it's way more than we ever had with just movies. They have social media all day, every day. And, I see it. My son is really he loves lifting, he loves calisthenics, he's really into health. And I see it just pop up on his feed as all these bodybuilders and blah, 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 and they're like paper thin skin and blah, blah, blah. And it's just such a hyper focus on the physical appearance aspect of health. It's like that's all that matters quite often in the fitness industry. To the point, it's like, I see from the fitness industry sometimes mocking the health optimization or, more holistic worlds for caring about the ingredients that go into their food, which I'm also going to hit on that a little bit because that goes way too far sometimes when we get in our next section. But it's like all that matters is what I look like on the outside, and I have compassion on this because I was in that place, it definitely comes from a wounded place. It definitely comes from not feeling good enough. But to see it so promoted, especially by coaches or professionals, of how much that mattering it comes into play is really a disservice. I feel like it's like from the fitness industry, there's a certain aspect of like overall health that's missing, and that I think really, really needs a shift. Okay. I've roasted the fitness industry. Now I'm going to roast the health optimization biohacking community. It's kind of a obviously inspired by my conversation recently with Chris Gethin, who was just on the podcast. All right. So health optimization / biohacking world. Okay. I hope you guys know what I mean. The first mindset that I find to be very toxic in that end of the health industry is perfectionism. Just what I was just hitting on. Listen, like, I mean, I filter my water. I have air purifiers in my home. I, focus on buying cleaner products with ingredients that are not only better for human health, but also the planet. I go on the EWG, the Environmental Working Group's website, and search laundry detergent and fabric softener and dishwasher detergent and see what rating they've given it. I do care about these things. Definitely focus on high quality food and the impact. I'm specifically interested also in the impact that the food I'm purchasing is having on the planet, right? So I'm a big proponent of regenerative agriculture. I'm mindful. I'm not a perfectionist. I don't always only eat everything organic and regenerative. It's also going to be okay if the best option I have is a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store that I know damn well is, not that. So I'm not a perfectionist with it, but what I see in social media perspectives from this community is like there's more don'ts than do's. There's more don't eat this or this thing is bad for you, avoid this, than I am seeing like, here's what I eat. Here's a great idea. Here's what I buy. It's almost like there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of shame rooted in it. I'm like, are you guys really like that perfectionist with every little thing that goes into your body? Like there's not wiggle room. Like I can understand if you have an active illness that that certain things exacerbate it. And I know that's part of the reason a lot of this mindset comes into that end of the health industry, because a lot of people in that world did come from a sick place. So, if you're super sensitive to scents and, perfumes and, all these little ingredients, like I respect that. Trust me, I understand. It's just overall, that end of the health industry can be borderline orthorexic to me. It's like everything has to be perfect. I am so focused on every little tiny ingredient and perfect thing that I almost can't even enjoy my time socially if I'm out at a restaurant and stuff isn't perfect. I'm going to become disconnected from the people that I'm with because I'm thinking about the seed oils that are in those fries, And, if you have a legitimate actual known reason to feel that way, you specifically know that there's something on in your body that is like actually a thing, that's different, but that's not what I come across. I come across a lot like theoretically that's bad, so I cannot have that. And for me personally, I refuse to do that. I refuse to believe that my body is so weak that it can't handle some imperfect things. I'm probably going to piss some people off with that statement, but that's how I see it. Like if I have to have some tap water in some situation, I'm like, I'm going to be fine. You know how many people are drinking tap water every day and live to be like 95 years old? A lot. A lot. And that's the other thing. I've been saying this a lot lately is I like to observe. I like to observe. We get so caught up in theory. It's like, hold on, zoom out a little bit though and observe reality. And I have observed that people who are super psychotically into health don't really live that much longer than people who aren't. Am I alone in that observation? I think that your quality of life is higher when you focus on your health, but to get to the point where we're sitting there judging our family members and friends and like if they're getting like the water that's only filtered through the refill station at the airport is like, ew, I can't believe you're doing that. Ugh, I would never drink that. Like it's like, do we really think that's better for our health than just having some of the not super filtered water from the refill station? You know what I mean? Like it's getting a little out of hand. And there are so many accounts from professionals in this community that are just like laden with fear. It's just like, these are all the things that can hurt you. And it needs to be balanced. We got to remember, like, unless you know for sure that thing's going to like super hurt you actively, like, we're getting a little overly caught up in feeling like every little thing out there is going to hurt us. It's like maybe work on your detox pathways and your nutritional support so that your body can handle some imperfect things. Work on your gut health. Work on your stress levels so that your body can handle some imperfect things sometimes. So that perfectionism thing that actually really leads into the second one from the health optimization biohacking community that I find to be not helpful, and that is elitism. It's bad. It's so bad. This is such an issue. I think that it may partly be because it's expensive to be in this community. There's kind of like a socioeconomic barrier to being deeply into the biohacking world. I mean, look at Dave Asprey's biohacking conferences. Like the ticket alone is a barrier. And then you get there and it's like, unless you got, at least a few hundos to throw down, but probably a few thousands at least to throw down, you're not really getting much at this if you're going to be shopping the floor there at the show. If you want to be, taking all these supplements and eating regenerative beef and having a cold plunge at your house and having a membership at the local sauna place and blah, 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 you're going to have some money, I'm not saying you have to have that to be in that world, but it is pretty common, right? And the gross part of that to me is that results in looking down on people who can't afford to live that lifestyle. That does happen 100%. It's like, ew, they eat fast food. Ew, they got white bread hot dog buns. Like, it's not cool. It's not cool. Like, we should be grateful if we are in a place where we can afford to have some of those things. But there's a difference between being grateful to be there and then looking down on people who can't afford to be there. And this elitism aspect is also harmful to the person in the elitist attitude, because I find that it causes people to be blind about their decision making sometimes. Meaning, let's talk energy drinks. There are plenty of energy drinks that come in like a nice, cool looking package that looks like health oriented, like Celsius, for example. Think of a Monster versus a Celsius. Which one looks healthier? The Celsius does, right? Monster looks like white trash, right? If you look at the ingredient label of a Monster versus a Celsius, it's going to be Monster every time. If you had to pick between the two, Celsius has way worse ingredients in it. And so I see this kind of stuff happen. I'm not saying probably a lot of biohackers don't drink energy drinks, but that is a great example of that. I saw that happen one time. So that's why I'm using that example. It's like, you didn't even read the label. You're just like going off of which one looks snobbier, which one looks more, whatever, poor. And then like, even like I've heard people say like, oh, sourdough bread is better. Which I do usually choose sourdough, but when I asked somebody why one time, and they told me because Ben Greenfield says it's better. And so I'm like, wait, but so you're making a purchase decision to get sourdough, but you don't really know why. You're just getting it because Ben Greenfield said it was better. By the way, the main reason people choose sourdough is usually because it has a lower gluten content from the fermentation process. But that's what I mean, is kind of like, it's like this hoity-toity mentality of like, I'm in the club. We only eat sourdough over here, but I don't even know why. All I know is that, in my world, in my cool club, we only eat sourdough. You know what I mean? So like that elitism attitude can also be damaging to the actual person in the attitude themselves sometimes, because you're not zooming out and looking at things from a more realistic point of view and actually wanting to know why you're making the decisions you're making. You're just making it because it looks rich. It looks healthy. It's what the healthy people do and all of that kind of stuff. So there's that one. I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this episode. All right. Last one from the health optimization biohacking community that I find to be a toxic mindset is majoring in the minors. Majoring in the minor, big time. Big time, big time, big time. I mentioned this in my Chris Gethin episode before this one. So if you listen to that one, forgive me, but I'm going to say it again. I've said it many times. I can't stop talking about it because it was like, I literally was mad. I guess that was a secondary emotion for sad. But I was so mad when I was at one of Dave Asprey's biohacking conferences, and almost no one there at the venue itself. The whole hotel is full of people at this conference, and hardly anyone was at the gym in the mornings. I was one of the only people there. I saw a small handful of other people from the conference, and I'm like, what? You guys are gonna go buy like a, machine that helps you fold your proteins better, but you're not gonna train, you're not gonna exercise. You're gonna go buy a PEMF mat or like methylene blue, but you're not going to do the basics. And Chris pointed this out in our last episode, and I agree. It's like there's kind of this mentality of like purchasing health that exists very heavily in the health optimization biohacking world. And it's like, okay, cool. I love all that stuff. I have all kinds of gadgets. I love my brain tap and my neurovisor and my, different supplements and my cold plunging and my sauna, my contrast therapy and my infrared sauna. Blah, 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 blah. I love red light. Like I love all that stuff. But I'm not going to even start with that unless I've got like my sleep on point, my, exercise regimen on point. I'm eating very healthy, like cool. But I do see often like, I'm like, where is all the muscle in the biohacking community? Yep, I'm being like that. I'm being like that. Why am I not seeing very many fit people in the biohacking world? There's some, of course, but yeah, it's majoring in the minors, in my opinion. It's like you're worried about like artificial sweeteners, but you're not training. Mm, you know? All right. Now, overall mindsets that I think are unhelpful in the entire health and fitness world. And it is the who's right and who's wrong stuff. I'm talking carnivores or vegans or, people who are making it a point, like carbs versus keto, which you guys know I have a book all about that. And my answer is yes, both. Bodybuilding people, oh my gosh, it's prevalent in like the strength coaching community. I'm right, they're wrong, this is right, this is wrong, blah, blah, blah. You're stupid if you do it like that, only smart people know you do it like this. And then juxtaposing that all the way to like yoga. Like I can't tell, I when I was in Hawaii, I lived amongst the hippies, okay, and I spent a lot of time in the kind of, I hate to say it that way, but the conscious communities, right, the hippie people. And I got a lot of what should I say, assumptions made about me because they're almost all yogis. Okay. They're almost all like, into yoga. And I had a lot of assumptions made about me because I have muscle, like assumptions like I could tell by the way they were talking to me that they assume that I have all my value wrapped up into my physique, that I never stretch or do mobility, that my body's just stiff as a board. I would get suggestions like it's actually bad for you to lift weights, all the way to I had a guy tell me that when I became more spiritual, I would go vegan, and I'm like, okay, thanks. So like it's this human need to be right is not serving us. I'm here to tell you, I feel very fortunate to be on the back end of people's lives, right? So I'm seeing their mindsets, I'm seeing their labs, right? So I have like this pool of actual data on people that I'm seeing is um, the results of their approach, right? And I'm telling you right now, I have seen vegans, people who have been vegan for a long time with excellent blood labs. I'm not saying they were perfect, but it's not anything less perfect than people who aren't vegan. And in fact, a lot of times better. Yeah. But in my keto world or whatever that I have come from, it's like, oh, they're the worst. They all have insulin resistance because they eat so many carbs. And I'm like, no, they don't. No, they do not all have insulin resistance. And they probably eat a lot more fiber than you do. So there's that, fiber does play a role in blood sugar regulation. It's not just only protein. That's not the only way to regulate our blood sugar. So I see stuff like that all the way to, I'll see posts from carnivore proponents about how much better their gut health is. And I mean, sure, yeah, I use carnivore every once in a blue moon with really severe cases of SIBO when we just really need to remove stuff for a while. And I match that with like a protocol to help drive down all that inflammation because they just can't freaking eat any carbs without creating all sort of, bloating and gas and all that stuff. We have to reduce protein too. So that's tough, right? But um so what I'm trying to say is I'm not against that approach, but I have seen, because I've teetered in the keto world, I have seen these stool tests of clients who are coming to me who have been carnivore for a long time and their gut health is not good, right? These are people who came to me on carnivore. They've been on it for like 2-3 years. Not good. Not good at all. So it's like, but you get on social media and you got some big talking head that's like, this is like, it makes your gut health even better. And it's just like super dogmatic. And it's like, maybe it might make somebody's gut health better temporarily, but you can't say that it's going to make everybody's gut health better. And I just personally, through my experience, bad idea long-term for gut health. Based off the labs that I have seen and actual real people, I think that's a bad idea long-term. The carnivore community often cites like the Inuit people. Quick side note, because I've never been able to share this in a public way and I've so wanted to for so long. Okay, I was like deep into this one time, just researching about like fiber and Inuits or whatever. And I found this message board, and it was this woman. She said she was old. I can't remember how old she was, but like 70s or something at least. And she was like, when we were young, it was about this topic. And she's like, when we were young, we used to eat the what did she say? Like the grasses out of the intestines of animals that we killed just to get fiber. She was like, so don't be thinking that we just didn't want fiber. We really wanted fiber. I wish I would have screenshot that and save it. I was like, what are you kidding me? Because that's what the carnivore people always use to cite, like, we don't need fiber. Okay. Okay. Agree to disagree. But at the same time, I can see how for the right person, when I say agree to disagree, I mean telling everyone that humans in general, all of them, none of us, none of us need fiber and shouldn't be eating fiber and like these really dogmatic things. I'm not saying that for the right person, that might not be right for them. But these dogmatic approaches of this is how it is in general for everyone. This is the best nutrition approach, the best training approach, the best approach for health overall is mine. No, 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 no. I will just say it. This is obviously one of the most opinionated podcasts I've ever given, but if somebody is being that dogmatic, if they have the right answers for all humans, run. That is cult-like thinking. It allows zero room for nuance. It creates a lot of division, because now as soon as you are like, this is the right ideology, I have to follow this ideology and nobody else should. Anything that doesn't fall into that ideology, you just like cover your ears and you're like, I'm not listening. You're stupid. You're wrong. And it causes you to become extremely short-sighted, and it causes you to become an asshole most of the time. Yep. Because you're like now, disrespecting people. You can't listen to them. You're, just waiting to prove them wrong. You're biasing all of your information through confirmation bias. See, I'm right. I knew I was right. When you just don't have to live that way. You can just live this much more peaceful, beautiful, curious life where you're just open-minded and like open to being wrong and interested in other people's perspectives. And that doesn't mean that they're now the right one. It's just like, oh, interesting, more food for thought. That works good for them. This works good for them. Maybe there's a lot of ways that people can live that are all good. Yay. That's a lot more peaceful existence than this need to be right and wrong stuff all the time. If somebody wants to only do yoga for the rest of their life, awesome. Yoga's amazing. If somebody only wants to do bodybuilding for the rest of their life, cool. Let them. Let them, but we don't need to make them feel wrong about it. Let them live their life the way they want to. We get this condescending energy so often as humans. It's really fascinating to me. And I just find it to be very limiting. Yeah. Um, love the line from Megamind, the kids movie. Girls, girls, you're both pretty. All right. I always think that when I see us arguing over who's right, it's just like, it's okay. You can both be right, or you can just both be wrong, or you can just both have your own opinions. All right. Last, I have to hit on this one. I almost didn't mention this, but I'm like, no, I gotta get it out in this episode. And it's an overall mindset. And I kind of hit on it before of getting healthy has to be hard and awful. And I know some people aren't going to want to hear this. I know that this is a cool experience for some people, but the whole 75 hard thing that got really popular, like, I don't know, what was that, like 2019, 2020, 2021, kind of in that whole phase. I feel like it's died down now, but that was a perfect example of how a lot of people look at getting healthy is it has to suck. And it has to be brutal. And I have to be insanely disciplined to the point that it's going to take over my whole life. And if I mess up, there's no mercy. Just start over. So if you're unfamiliar, 75 hard, let's see if I can remember. It's been a few years since I even thought about it. But I think it's like read 10 pages of a book every day. You have to work out every day, twice a day. And one of those has to be outside. You have to like drink a gallon of water. I can't remember the rest. Follow some sort of nutrition protocol or something like that. But that's basically the idea. But if you mess up in these 75 days, then you have to start over again. Okay, so if you're on day 74 and you don't read your 10 pages of your book, you got to start on day 1. All right. And so I know for some people who are like, they live for stuff like that, that it's been a positive experience for people. So I'm not knocking it altogether. I think for the right person, it's really fun for them. But I think for the majority of humans, it exacerbates a deep-seated issue that we really need to re-examine in terms of how we're looking at getting healthy. And this is mostly because of social media. Social media has been really awesome for health in a lot of ways and also really unhelpful in a lot of ways. And it's this mentality that it has to suck and be horrible. And I don't like that. I'll finish that thought by saying my son, Jerem, who's gotten really into lifting and health and all that stuff, he was just having the time of his life when we were living out in Hawaii, getting up early before school and going to work out and getting to bed early. Like, he's like, I love this. This is so cool. And we talked about this and he's like, gosh, he's like, what? Why do people do that? He's like, there's nothing in me right now that's like feeling like I'm miserable. Like, I love this. This is fun. Like, why do people have to have such a bad attitude about it and like make it into this horrible thing? And I hope that we can start to see this shift. I hope that if you're listening to this, one, I hope you already have that mentality towards healthy eating and exercise and your sleep. And, if you're going to do any supplements or labs, that you look at it as fun and like cool and like, I love this. Like, yeah, like a hobby, like an interest, right? That's something you're really into and enjoy. And if you're not there yet, I guess, how can I sum this up? One, you're not making excuse. Don't tell yourself you're just making excuses. Validate the actual issues that you're having and seek to find solutions and understand that sometimes that first try might not work. And then you got to like re-examine it again, but you can find a way to make these things work in your life, but you will find them so much easier if you are compassionate and cool and kind and supportive and validating of yourself versus just completely dismissing yourself and telling yourself you got to just stop making excuses. 2, you don't have to force yourself to do anything. You don't have to work out. You don't have to eat healthy. You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to make goals. And I think when we remember that, we allow ourselves to expand into this, yeah, but I want to. And it's a much more enjoyable energy. And when it's a more enjoyable energy, we're more likely to stick with it long term. Next, just summing all these up, the hyper focus on physical appearance. Build a loving relationship with your body. Meditate. Sit with your body and appreciate all the things that it's doing for you. Actually think about it sometimes, like, hey, heart, thanks for everything you're doing. Gut, man, you guys been working hard. Thank you so much. Muscles, immune system, brain, veins, all of it, bones. Like, thank you so much for everything you guys are doing so I can have this cool earth life thing going on. Anything you guys need? Right? Focus more on your internal and build that loving relationship with your body, that you want what's best for it, because when your body thrives, you thrive. If you're having issues, you're having back pain, you're having autoimmunity, you've got, some sort of chronic pain, chronic illness, having a hard time figuring out how to lose weight, your hormones are a mess, like, your body's struggling. Give it compassion like you would give a child who was struggling. Like, hey, body, like, I know you're really struggling with this right now. Thank you for everything I know you're trying as hard as you can. How can I help? How can I support? Versus being mad at it and, disgusted with it. Your body is trying so hard. It is doing miraculous workarounds so that you can thrive. So see that, appreciate that, build a relationship with it, and that will take you so far out of being so focused only on the outside. It's a much more enjoyable way to look at health. And ta-da, your outside will look better too, because it's a reflection of what's going on inside. All right. Perfectionism's got to go. I mean, well, in my opinion, you can be a perfectionist if you want, but I just don't think it's serving us. I think it's causing a lot of unnecessary stress, which is way worse for our health than having some, suboptimal ingredients sometimes. Elitism, we're not better than anybody because we're healthy. I really hate this one. I actually think it's destructive to relationships, families. I see this all the time. I hear it from people in my own community, is this kind of snobbish look down on my family members because they eat McDonald's. No, I don't eat McDonald's because I don't want to support McDonald's, because I freaking hate those guys, because I feel like they're so responsible for like the downfall of human health globally. But I don't look down on people because they eat McDonald's. They can eat McDonald's if they want to. It doesn't make them a worse person than me. Like that's the kind of attitudes that I really hate it. I really find that to be quite disgusting. So like, we're not better than anybody else because we're healthier. That's so messed up. I work very hard. People get like that around me. They're like, they assume that I'm going to be judging them. I know they're going to assume that. So I work very hard to be like, dude, no, 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 no. I am not judging you. You can do whatever you want. Oh my God. I would never be like that. Like, please no, I am not judging you. Okay. It's about health, not status, All right. And then, yeah, don't major in the minors. Get the basics down first. And remember that you might be wrong, right? On the who's right, who's wrong. Remember that you might be wrong. I love being wrong, because when I'm wrong, I find out something new that I didn't know before, and I expand and I grow. I love being wrong because I used to think I was right about everything. And when I found out I was wrong about some really big things in my life got infinitely better. So I'm almost kind of obsessed with being wrong now. It's a it's a humility pill to swallow for sure. It doesn't ever feel good to be like, ugh, I've been saying that, and that's like completely and totally wrong. Oh my God. It never feels great. But the flip side of it is now you're expanded and you're wiser, and your outlook is more expansive. It's amazing. And last, getting healthy does not have to be some big miserable experience. It should be joyous. Start with the things that bring you joy. Start with the exercise that brings you joy. Start with the meals that bring you joy, that are healthy. Like, let's make it enjoyable and joyous and fun versus like misery. That is my hope for the future of health and fitness. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Would love to hear your thoughts. Find me on social media, Coach Tara Garrison, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And let me know if there was anything in this episode that resonated or pissed you off, or you just want to tell me something about it. I would love to hear your thoughts. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Inside Out Health Podcast. I hope it's been helpful to you in your journey. If you think that it might be helpful to someone you know, please share it with them. Please share on social media. It really helps me grow the show and reach more people with these amazing messages. And if you could be so kind as to rate the show and possibly even leave me a review, that really helps. So much thanks in advance if you do that. And yeah, please subscribe if you want to hear more of this type of content. I have lots of amazing expert guests on the way. All right. Thank you.